Let's go to Tyler in Wisconsin. Welcome to the show. What say you?
Hey, Josh. I'm calling about the exact thing you're talking about. My stepdad told me I should run for mayor because I have a conspiracy theory set mind. And I got rid of my Facebook because I'm afraid of exactly what you're talking about. The people that I'm going against finding me going against them. And I'm trying to change my community because in Waushara County, where I live, there is more drug addiction in this small community than there is in a community like Madison or Milwaukee. What do I do?
Why do you think that is? Actually, I'm up against a break. Stay where you're at because I want to know why you think that is. I think it's important and could lead to a great discovery. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be back right after this. All right, Tyler, why do you think in Waushara County there's such a high drug use rate?
You know, I don't know. You know, like, I know that we're the intersection of two major highways, one coming from Minnesota and one coming from southern Wisconsin, Illinois, Chicago area. And, you know, we only have 12,000 people in our county about. And in our county, we are either for high school and we tell our kids to go to sports. And if they don't do that, they end up falling behind and then they get hooked into drugs. Or they have teen pregnancies and drop out of school. That is this county. There's no in between. You know, I don't know what to do because when I go out and tell other people, hey, maybe that's not the thing you want to do, they look at me like I'm trying to be holier than thou. And they don't take any advice or any suggestion. I'm not telling them, hey, you're bad for doing that, don't do that. I'm saying, hey, if I was in your shoes, maybe I would try to be closer with my family or try to be closer with good people that will bring me up above the bad people that give me my habit. So I'm in a crossroad of caring for people and not caring for people. What do I do?
You know, I think a lot of people are at that crossroad. I think a lot of people have this understanding that we're falling apart, but do we really want to get involved because we might fall apart ourselves? And when you look at why people do bad things like drugs, people are programmed almost like a binary computer. We either pursue pleasure or avoid pain. And when you have young people and they're told, well, you know, sports are your only option, it's kind of a boring county, well, then the only pleasure that they have available to them is drugs and teen sex. And while it might be bad, it's still a pleasure. And then they get hooked on it, and it becomes a repetitive pleasure even after they know it's something bad. No drug user thinks to themselves, oh, yeah, this is a great thing to do. They consciously know it's a bad thing, but in their subconscious, in their mind, it still creates that pleasure. They need that fix. They need that high. So there's a process to get people away from that. But in general, what you're looking at is a situation that we're finding as a nation. How do we pursue pleasure in other areas of life? That's why you have crack addicts who, time in and time out, they've gone to rehab, it's never worked, and then just one day, it clicked. Because that pursuit of pleasure was outweighed by the avoidance of pain. And I think that's where we're kind of at as a society. I mean, you kind of mentioned it when you said, you know, I want to help, but I don't want to help. I want to get involved. I don't want to get involved. You're at that crossroads where you're trying to decide, should you pursue pleasure or avoid pain? And unfortunately, those two things are typically going in opposite directions. And now you mentioned that you deleted your Facebook because you don't want the people who are trying to rule and corrupt everybody coming after you, but you're thinking about a run for mayor. Is this a serious contemplation, or is this kind of a that would be nice sort of thing?
I honestly believe, you know, I would be a good leader because I'm part of that small dying breed that has morals, you know, and I feel as though if I did run for mayor, nothing would get done from like what you were talking about with your previous caller. And like, I think Facebook should be used to get your word out. It's one of the best ways to get your word out, but all of a sudden, people that you don't want to get your word to, they get it and then they use it against you. You know,
oh, sure.
I would like to run for mayor, but I'm only 22 years old. I wouldn't know the first thing to getting started a political campaign. I wouldn't know any of that, but I do know that the people that are, say, like the mayor of Milwaukee, you know, Tom Barrett, I could run Milwaukee better than he could because he doesn't care.
Right.
But
well, a monkey could run Milwaukee better than Tom Barrett could.
But see, people don't look at it like that. They look at me like, oh, you're 22 years old. You dropped out of college. You're a failure, son. You're not going to be a leader of our city. You're a failure.
No. Tyler, people look at what you want them to look at. If you went, because remember, any political campaign is going to start with local businesses supporting you. Without local business support, you're dead in the water. If you went to the small businesses in your community and you said, look, like most successful entrepreneurs, I am a college dropout. But instead of using that gift of leaving college to start a business, I'm going to use it to help you. If you are sick and tired of small business falling apart in Waushara County, if you are sick and tired of losing to the big box stores that are being popped up in the major counties while our local residents would rather drive 45 minutes away as opposed to spend an extra $2 with you, then you need to seriously think about supporting me for run for mayor. And you say those 2 or 3 sentences. Just say those 2 or 3 sentences. And, you know, they're going to look at you like, well, I don't know, kid, you're kind of young. And I say, and then say, and that's why I need your help, sir. I might be young. I have the energy. You have the wisdom. Are you really telling me between youth and wisdom we can't make a change in this community? And if you're telling me that, let's just move now. What is he going to say? He's not going to say, no, I'm so stupid, I'm going to stay here. He's going to say, you know what, that's a pretty good point. So then you start to gain that momentum. You start getting those people where they're pursuing pleasure as opposed to avoiding pain. And that's why people don't get involved. That's why people don't vote, because voting right now is painful. Well, it's not going to change anything anyway. And to a certain extent, they're absolutely right. But if voting for you could be their pursuit of pleasure, then you will naturally have the people behind you, regardless if you're 22 or 18 or 74. Because people only operate on those 2 things. And if you're the only person in the race telling them, hey, you know what? You are absolutely right on believing what you believe. And you are absolutely right on wanting what you want. Now let's go out and do it. And if you think I'm young, great. Then I'm a mayor that's not going to try to corrupt you. I'm a mayor that's not going to try to rule over you. I'm going to be a mayor that's of the people because I need your influence in order to make the decisions. If you think I'm too young to run for office, I'm the perfect candidate for you because obviously the older people aren't listening to you.
And that's the thing. I want to get the community to realize that we are going backwards, that we are destroying ourselves. You know, I honestly thought about teaching a drug class to get younger kids and their parents to come and learn about what their prescription drugs, heroin, meth, any kind of thing like that. TV is a drug. You know, that's more powerful than LSD, TV is. Obvious.
Oh, yeah. But here's the problem, Tyler. Here's the problem. You're going to tell them that drugs are bad. And you're going to tell them that the fluoride in the water is making them stupid. And then they're going to look around at the world around them and say, well, I don't have anything else pleasurable to pursue anyway. So their real options are negative or negative. I avoid pain by taking the drug and I don't feel it, or I'm in the pain of a career that goes nowhere, a life that goes nowhere, a marriage that goes nowhere. So in all honesty, can you really blame them for wanting to not feel it? And instead of telling people why things are bad, and I hope that other hosts listen to this part, instead of telling people only why why everything is bad, we need to start telling people that there are positive options. There are pleasures to pursue. That's why we talk about marriage and what makes a good marriage. That's why we talk about business and what makes a good retirement and what makes a good candidate. And why I'm spending so much time on this call. Because when we do that, we don't have to worry. We've been sucked into this system where those who we oppose spew negative. So our response is to point out that they're spewing negative. Well, that doesn't work. People have been pointing out the corruption of the Federal Reserve since 1913. Matter of fact, before it, in 1912. They already started pointing this out. And if the message hasn't gotten out there in 100 years, it's not getting out there. Instead, what comes along? Bitcoin. Now, I'm not a huge supporter of Bitcoin, but it serves as a great example. Bitcoin comes along and doesn't say, well, the Federal Reserve started on Jekyll Island. Bitcoin came along and said, hey, you want to have money you can actually believe in? And it was a positive, it was a pursuit of pleasure that people could go after, so they flocked to it. And if you did that with your campaign, you would be the next mayor wherever you live in Waukesha County or West Sheriff County. That does it for today, my friends. Thank you so much for that call. I really, truly appreciate it. Today, tomorrow, and as always, may your path lead to heaven, and may freedom follow in your footsteps.